Hello, Ed. It's a privilege to meet you. Now, your documentary, The Mountain Within Me, um, you obviously sustained this terrible, life-changing injury, and it can't have been easy for you, but especially your wife and your family, to revisit that moment. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was a serious, it was a seriously traumatic situation for a lot of people involved, not just myself, but a lot of my loved ones too. So, reliving it can be tough. Reconnecting can be tough, but obviously, a lot of positive things have transpired since then. So, it's not as tough as it maybe would have been had it been a different story, I suppose.
So, can you tell me about the initial discussion to make this kind of feature-length documentary about the what's happened?
Yeah, I had a phone call from a lady called Helen Parker from Universal, and I had written a book a few years before based on a diary that I'd been keeping in hospital, and she had read the book and said, "Look, I think this can be a film." And initially, I thought it was a joke, if I'm honest, especially when they said it was Universal. I was like, "This is just, this must be a wind up." But it wasn't, and that was 3.5 years ago, and there was obviously a lot of, it was exciting to hear something like that, but at the same time there was a bit of trepidation about, oh my, this is my going to be my life story, but not just mine. Anyone, a lot of people I care about are going to be opening themselves up and being vulnerable, and a lot of people are going to see that. So I had a bit of a protective instinct, my family, my wife, beneficiaries of the charity, um, but the director, Polly Steele, and the producer, George Chignall, like when we first met them, they came down to ours. It didn't take long to realize that our sort of visions were aligned on what we wanted this film to be, and most of all, how we wanted it to help people. We didn't want it to just be a film that was just entertainment, your sort of classic sort of hero's journey. There had to be the deeper messaging in there that potentially people will be able to take away with them, no matter what their circumstances, and have a positive impact on their life. Now, I don't, that's not obviously going to happen for everyone. It is a piece of entertainment, and there's plenty of stuff in there, suspense and drama and amazing mountain shots and all of these sorts of things. But actually, the feedback we've been getting so far, which is really reassuring, is the main reasons we made this film, the impact it can have, and the messaging behind it is really landing with people.
So the documentary includes the initiation, the start and work of your charity, Millimeters to Mountains. Um, what I mean, who and what has presented the biggest challenge for you with that particular charity? Because it's an inspirational one.
Um, COVID presented the biggest challenge for that charity because we started it in 2019. Having said that, because it was just me and my wife Lois at the time, we didn't have the overheads, we weren't paying ourselves, we didn't have rented offices, all of these things. We could kind of hit pause and hit planning mode, but it was a bit annoying, frustrating because we had this passion and this drive to create something and to help other people, and then COVID came along. But I suppose that did give us a time to plan and build a good board of trustees, and actually put us in a strong point now where we've been running for 5 years. We've had 3 rounds of beneficiaries go through the full 3-year program, and it has worked better than we could have ever imagined. There's been the things we hoped to work have worked, but also there's been a lot of sort of hidden benefits and things that have come out of the woodwork that have surprised us too. A lot of it around the community that's been built and what the beneficiaries then have wanted to go on and do and help other people. So that sort of ripple effect has been great to see.
Now you've done so many mountains. I mean, it's awesome. It really is awesome. But what's the biggest challenge that you'd really like to have a go at doing?
That's it. I mean, I don't really think too far ahead in terms of challenges because I'm still evolving and developing as a climber, as a mountaineer, and obviously it's not normal for me the way that I operate, and also my body is very different to others. So I move on to the next level of technical ability or physical ability, and then I pick a challenge conducive to that in terms of something that's slightly outside of my comfort zone. Well, a long way outside of my comfort zone, but outside of my skill base and physical ability at the time, but is in 6 months' time. That motivates me to take the next step. Like, I think for me, it's about the adventure. So I like going to remote places. I like immersing myself in local culture. I like taking on challenges that are slightly less trodden, probably. I like doing it with other people. So climbing with other people who are on their own journeys or might have physical disabilities or struggling themselves at the time, so they can reap the rewards as well. But having said that, I suppose in terms of big goals, I would like to climb to 8,000 meters at some point. And I would also like to do a first ascent, which is like in the pipeline potentially for next year, because I would like to claim a mountain. I know you don't claim mountains, but I'd like to name a mountain on behalf of the disabled climbing community and like accessible adventure. So yeah, a first ascent would be cool.
So you've climbed, the heights. I'm just wondering about going in the opposite direction and diving the depths. Deep
Oh,
sea diving, something like that. Would that be something of a consideration?
funny you say that because I was a swimmer before I did rugby. I played rugby. I love
Yeah.
being in water. I spend a lot of my time underwater as well. So um, I have been interested by free diving, and I live close to a place called Vobster Key, which is like National Free Diving Centre. So um, I like the idea of that. I'm not sure Lois will be too. My mum would be too happy for me getting into another pursuit, which is going to be potentially life threatening. But I like the idea of the breathing side and the sort of psychological side of that sport in itself. So yeah, definitely interested.
You say, you were a rugby player, and I think you played number eight, didn't you?
Yeah.
Position. So you're a good rugby player, and I'm just wondering, with your interest in sports, because you had such an interest in sport beyond rugby, was there ever any consideration with after the injury about competing at an Olympic level in the Special Olympics in a particular sport, maybe?
Um, there was for a little bit. I think I was actually approached by British cycling, British swimming, British rowing after my accident in hospital because they saw, oh, professional sportsman with a high level spinal cord injury. Maybe we could get some medals there. So, but at the time, I'd just come off the back of professional sport was all I knew. I knew the way that I would approach that if I committed to it. It was 3 years to the next Paralympics, and I would have fully committed to it. And I just thought I need to concentrate on trying to get my life back or rebuilding a life for myself and Lois first before I consider that. Now, I would never say never. Having said that, I've been lucky enough to get involved with the Paralympics on the media side. So, working for Channel 4, I went to Tokyo, I went to Beijing, and I'm off to Paris in a few days' time. So I get to experience and be involved with the incredible Paralympic movement without having to train for 4 years, which is quite nice to be honest.
Yeah. So your life has taken, I mean, finally, your life has taken a very different direction since the accident. If that accident had not happened, where do you think your life would have been at this point?
I mean, it's tough to know because I mean, I definitely didn't expect any of my life myself to be doing anything that I'm doing now. Probably would have gone down a more trodden path of I had just done a master's in real estate finance of all things, mostly because I was enjoying studying whilst I was playing. It was helping my rugby, and I spoke to all of my mates who were working in London, and the ones who were involved in real estate were on the golf course more than the others. So that was my only sort of motivation behind it. But I probably would have gone and worked in London in one of those industries where a lot of rugby players sort of do develop into. But to be honest, I'll never know because that will never be my route now. So yeah.
Well, it's a really inspiring documentary, Ed. It really is. So thank you ever so much for your time, and I wish you all the best for the future with the charity. It's really quite something. Thank you.
Cheers, Simon. Nice to meet you.